7,000 high school students drop out every school day. Let's catch them before it's too late. To start helping students in your community, visit boostup.org.
Welcome to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, and my special guest today from Eastland-Fairfield Career Center, Bob Thomas. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Mike. Happy to be here.
Thanks for being here today.
Well, it's a nice day. It's Friday. It's been the greatest summer that I remember in my history, so to get out into it is a really good thing.
Now, what do you do in the summertime when you're not in school? Do you guys get? Do you get summer off? Or?
No. What I do for financial aid, no, I don't get the summer off. No, we have classes all year long. So we constantly have information that's coming in to us and students who are asking questions about financial aid, so that's what I do.
Let's talk a little bit about, it's that time of the year, everybody's going back to school and they're thinking about what classes that they're going to do or what they're going to major in. And I know you've got some classes that are going to be starting very soon.
Yeah, typically we've always had classes that start around this time of the year. I've said before that we have classes that start year round, and we do, but typically, as with most places, we have fall enrollments, and so we have medical assisting classes and medical office technologies classes, dental assisting classes. We just are starting some new classes, welding and electrical instrumentation class. Plus we'll have, in another month or so, we'll have another basic police officers training class. So it's very busy at our school right now.
Now, these are adult classes? Or
yes, these are adult classes.
Okay.
The high school that we're affiliated with, the Eastland-Fairfield Career Technical Schools, high schools will be starting, I think, next week, August 20th, 21st.
So if people are interested in classes, open house, website, phone numbers, how do they find out?
They can look at our website. Should have plenty of information out there for them. In fact, there probably is at least one page that has a good description for each of the programs that are out there, and there's also a financial aid page. So they can go there, and that's just www.eastlandfairfield.com. But yes, back to your point about open houses and things like that, we have scheduled open houses all this summer, and we'll have another thing that we call orientation. In fact, we like all of our new adult students to go through an orientation. It takes about maybe 4 to 5 hours to do that. So that's become a prerequisite, and one of the reasons we do that for all of them, and the reason I bring it up is we'll probably have another one next week. We just had one yesterday. But we like to have students come in. We'll do some testing with them to see what their basic education levels are, because as you and I would both know, that going back to school after having been out for a long time, especially when someone says, we'd like to test your math skills, that's the one that generally gets people. So in order to put them at ease, we do a little testing, and that way our adult basic education can come into play. So if someone starts early enough with the testing, they can find out, I could use some more help in the areas of an algebra or a geometry, if that's what they have they need some help with. And we have our staff then schedule meetings with them, and we'll lay out some training for them so they can get better prepared. So anybody who's interested, we do require that students register for the orientations. Now when we have open houses, we just have them usually for about a 2-hour period. We'll say come in from 1 to 3, but students or prospective students are encouraged to come and take a look at our facilities and our labs, talk to instructors, certainly talk to me, and talk to Annette Harris. Actually handles most of the registration paperwork for us now, and they can talk with her at any time.
So is there a cost to take the test?
No. The orientation has no charge for it. We would just like to encourage people to do that. The other things that we talk about in orientation, and I was going to talk to you a little bit about this later, is we're much more concerned that people are aware of their own personal finances when they're getting into school again. When they want to go back to school, that's the first question they usually ask is, how am I going to pay for this? And we like to set up some kinds of sessions with them to talk about personal finances.
So when are they available for Pell Grants and loans and all those things?
All those classes that I mentioned, the 3 different medical classes, the medical assisting, office technologies, and dental assisting. In fact, all of our classes, they're all eligible for Pell Grants and federal student loans. So we always ask all of our students, strangely enough, we'll have people who will say, well, I'm not going to get anything, so I'm not going to do that. I don't want to file for the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. And I always look and I said, it's a free thing to do. What have you got to lose? 15 minutes of your time. If the least amount of money that you can get from a Pell Grant is $605, and I always say, if someone were going to write me a check for $605, I'd certainly take 15 minutes to get that opportunity. So, yeah. We've also learned, too, over the years that it's much better for us to have people come into our offices to do that, and I know down at the...
Do they have to make an appointment to do that, or
no,
what's the easiest?
No. They can come in pretty much any time on Monday through Friday. We encourage people to come in maybe better between the hours of 9 and 3, just to make sure. Annette Harris is a part-time employee of ours who handles the registration, and she's right there in our Student Services Center, so she can help them get onto a computer, do FAFSAs, do master promissory notes online, do entrance counseling for loans online, but they can come in any day and do that. If someone wants to call us to say, can I schedule an appointment so that I'm sure someone's there available, we encourage that. Our telephone number is up in my office. It's 614-836-4541, and anything, as I say, is available on our website, so they could go there if they want to do it.
Is it a challenge for people to come back and say, I don't know what I want to do,
Sure.
or and then how am I going to pay for it? But I know in addition to financial counseling, you have some other counselors there. But in general, are you seeing older people going back to school?
Well, we're seeing, certainly we are, and it's been that way, I would guess, as long as I've been doing the financial aid there. We certainly do have people who are of an age where they might not have considered that years ago. As we all know, there's been things about the economy that have forced people to take a look and get new skills. But we definitely have a great mixture of ages in our classes. We see some people in every class who have just graduated from high school, or maybe they're 19 or 20 years old, but almost every class is also going to have people in their 30s. Particularly, it might surprise people that some of our what we call skilled trades classes, more along the lines of heating and air conditioning, facilities maintenance, the welding classes, we're seeing people who will come into there in their 40s or even 50s.
So I still have a chance.
Yeah, with backs and knees, that's what we usually have to say. If you see somebody walk in and he's walking like you and I walk anymore, we might say, maybe this isn't the right thing for you to do. But yeah, we do have all ages. And as I say, a lot of people will say, I don't think that I'm going to qualify for things, or I can't afford to take out loans. And I always want to sit down with them before they make that final decision to say they don't want to do that stuff, and say, let's take a good look at this and see if it is something for you to do.
We're talking with Bob Thomas, Financial Aid Administrator for Eastland-Fairfield Career Center. When people finally make up their mind and say, this is what I want to do, I know Eastland is a pretty good bargain for the dollars. Is it culture shock sometimes? Gee, the last time I was in school it was $20 a credit hour.
Well, yes, yeah, and although we do pride ourselves, we're much more than competitive, I think. And I always use this caveat. We know that we're low cost compared to a lot of other places. We have a wonderful benefit, which is we're part of a great school system, and we're using facilities that have been provided there for us. That's what adult education at Eastland-Fairfield is really about. We're using the same facilities that high school students and things use. So we have a great break there. Now, the other thing about it is we don't have any kind of advertising dollars because we don't collect that kind of stuff. So we basically get by on word of mouth and through our website, things like that. But it doesn't matter. It's a culture shock for anybody to look at any kind of education nowadays if they haven't been out looking at it for several years, because it's an expensive proposition any way you look at it.
Now, obviously you worked in the telephone industry for a number of years, and before moving into this, does it help you when you're talking to people about financial expectations that coming out of the work environment?
Oh, I think so. And I think, given my history, I've been in exactly the same position that a lot of those folks are when they come in to see me. I know what it's like to have been out of work. I know what it's like to be thinking about what kind of skill do I need. I've been doing something for 10 or 15 years, and now I'm not doing that anymore. And what can I do? So I hope that I give them a good perspective, and I can help them get over those kind of fears, because realistically, to sit and not do anything means that a year from now, you will still be sitting, not doing anything, wondering what you can do. So I never like people to rush into anything, but I also caution them, don't wait too long for something like that, because there are so many educational programs out there. I'm sure you can find one that fits you. But as we know, sometimes you wait too long and there's opportunities. Like right now, one of the reasons we've started our welding classes is we've always had short-term welding classes, and those were really designed for people.
When you say short-term?
I mean, it's somebody would come in for a couple of nights a week, and they might do 3 hours of training each of those nights, and then they'd be there for probably 10 weeks. They might learn arc welding, or they might learn TIG welding or MIG welding or those kind of things. But generally then, for those students, we were dealing with people who were maybe trying to just build another skill that they were already using on their job. But now we know with the way the gas industry is coming into natural gas here in Ohio, it's going to be lots of call for welders. It's a rising occupation, and we thought this is something we need to do because there are a lot, a much more a much greater dialogue, I think, with the businesses around here. We encourage it. We hope that they would want to talk with us.
Do you do a lot of market analysis? Do you spend a lot of time looking what other schools are doing? And
I'd love to say that I do, but no, I spend most of my time looking at the numbers for the students who are coming in there. But I would think that what we do know is that there have been a proliferation of other schools around here, so we know that there is a great need for education. I tend to think that those other schools have a market that they look at that's probably slightly different than ours is. We tend to get a lot of people who really don't have very many resources at our schools, and I think one of the reasons for that is we're maybe a low-cost alternative for them, and plus our classes are usually designed to be done in 9 months to a year. A lot of other schools that have come in around here are offering 2-year associate's degrees, and there is certainly a place for that, and there's lots of occupations where that's a requirement to get a job, but there's lots of occupations that's not necessary to get that, and you don't need to build up that kind of debt. You don't need to go to school that long to get out and be working in some of our types of classes. I mean, even for example, our basic police officers training class, in order for somebody to be working in law enforcement, in very many cases here in Ohio, they have to go through that. That's something that's created and sanctioned by the Ohio Peace Officers Training Commission, which is under the auspices of the Attorney General's office. And you'd think, well, gee, that's such a skilled position, and you have to have such knowledge for that. But people can come into that and actually will earn their commission within 6 months. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, and we like to have those types of things where someone's not spent. One, it allows people to come to a class even though they might be working, but it also allows them to get from a position where they're not working at all into a profession where they can start making pretty good money.
Do you ever get involved with maybe a group will come to you and say, why don't you offer submarine welding or something like that? I mean, do you get involved in that? Or?
Sure. And I think that's part of what Kelly will be working more closely on. But yes, in fact, we encourage that. Like lots of businesses and lots of schools, I'm sure we have a continuous improvement plan there, and that really does involve getting people who come in and say, I've not been here before to talk with you about this, and I'm looking at your facilities, could you do this? So we still do a lot, especially in the skilled trades, we will still do a lot of training that's specifically designed to meet a niche that a business has, rather than offering it to somebody like the general public. So yeah, it's customized training. We're still very happy to do that.
So a lot of seminars, certificates, things like that you can get involved with for a company that may want to send just 5 or 6 people to just learn one thing.
Yeah, it's not as much as it used to be, but you might know too that in the past, we've always had a very successful computer training program. Well, most people nowadays have, especially if they have kids at home, they know more about computers than adults do. But if they're specialized training, we can still do that, and we still do that fairly often for companies. They say, I've got a specialized product or a specialized need that can be handled by computers, for example. Can you train that? And sure, we have a wonderful instructor, 2 wonderful instructors actually for computer training, Alicia Flom and David Flom, and Yeah, they're very good at meeting a particular business's needs. And again, our skilled trades does the same thing.
Whereas you and I offered to help JT set up today, and he told us just leave it alone.
It'll be much better if I connect this and you guys just sit and watch.
If you guys, it'll take a lot. I know we talk about the finance. Are people worried about financing? Are they thinking, oh, how much? I know we talked about Pell Grants and FAFSA and all that, but in general, when you talk to people, is it like sticker shock, I guess?
Yes. In fact, even before I came down here to talk with you today, I spoke briefly with a woman who came to our office, and that's exactly what she asked. She said, I know that I need to go back to school, but I don't know anything about getting through this, except that I filled out FAFSAs for my kids. I don't know really how this affects me. Will I be able to do this? What will it cost me? And that's when we like to sit down with somebody and say, again, it is going to cost, that's just no way about that. It is going to cost more money than you'd like to spend, but there are ways to do that, and let's try to put it in perspective. If you come to me and tell me I have to get out and work, then I'm going to say to you, then you have to accept that these are the conditions for this. And the great news for that is there are funds available, and through Pell Grants and through federal student loans, at least at our school, there really aren't any classes that a student can't afford by using those few means that are available to anybody through the Federal Department of Education. And we benefit from Job and Family Services if there are people who can get grants or things like that.
WIA funding?
WIA funding, Workforce Investment Act. So there are some local ways to do that. It's not hard, but it's hard to make that leap when you're looking at your own budget and you're saying, well, I really have only $50 extra per month right now. How can I afford a class that costs $9,000? There are ways to do it. You just have to accept that it's possible.
Did you ever get involved with a potential student that would come in and say, I only want to go to school for a year. What can I do for a year?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, some people will come to us with exactly that, saying, there's something that's going to happen in my life that right now I have this opportunity, and what could I do in this time frame? We generally like to have people start thinking a little more concretely about, don't just come and ask and say, what have you got? But
so you're telling me not to show up?
No, I'm just trying to say, when someone just knocks on the door and says, I want to go back to school, and I say, what would you like to do? And they say, what have you got? That's not a good situation, because that tells me you need to do a little more thinking about this before you step through here and start borrowing money or something like that. But we do, yeah, certainly. We have, particularly this will happen when there's been a change in a family situation. We have lots of people who've gone through a split or something like that, and somebody who's not worked before or hasn't worked for a long time then says, my life's different than it was last year, and I can't wait to get a 4-year degree. I'm not 21 years old anymore. Now I've got 2 kids, and I've got a mortgage, or now I've got a lease arrangement that I never used to have. So what can I do? And again, what we want people to do is to not panic.
Right.
We want you to think seriously about what you would like to do, because hopefully what they do is they come to us and they get training that they're going to use for, who knows, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, and that's going to be their profession. So.
Sometimes when people, even they come into GFS and they'll talk about, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I'm not sure I can do that, or maybe it's something that might be a little bit beyond my scope. But one of the things that people always talk about are class times. Well, I want to go back to school, but I can't go at 8 o'clock in the morning. But is that, the schedule is flexible? I mean,
well, for their purposes, I'd like to have them be able to be more flexible than they are. But of course, one of our difficulties is we are working around a high school environment. So we have to make use of facilities when they become available to us. In fact, our dental assisting program actually starts at noon and runs through 6:45 p.m. Doesn't seem to be the most convenient time in the world for most people, but we also have to share the dental facilities there, the lab space, with juniors and seniors who are in high school. So that's not when it's convenient maybe, but that's when we have to do that. It's a very successful program, and we always applaud the students every year who can make those kind of sacrifices and say, I'll kind of put something on hold in the family because in the early part of the evening I'm not going to be able to be there. But we do offer many different types of classes that actually meet at night. That basic police officers training class I spoke about. We have a daytime class and a nighttime class. So we can fit people who might work in either of those other parts
What
of the
about
day.
weekend classes? People always talk about, gee, I could go to class on Saturday all day, but...
Well, we don't. We don't. But I mean, there are certainly other numbers of schools who do provide that kind of thing, and there are schools that do things online. I'm sure that's a growing part of education nowadays, where people are taking classes online. In fact, Kelly Fuller had just finished her classes, finished her degree, and part of the classes that she took were online. Now, we don't have that capability right now for ours, and a lot of that reason is because our classes are generally divided into a theory portion where you're sitting in a classroom and a hands-on training. And again, that's one of the benefits for a school like ours is you come in and you literally get the hands-on training. If you want to go be a medical assistant, come down to our labs down there, and they're outfitted just like a doctor's office would be. So there's a portion where someone sits as though they would be a receptionist at a doctor's office. They learn those skills. They also have lab rooms in the back where they'll learn about drawing blood, which is probably you and I wouldn't want to do that, but you know, they do that. And they learn, you know, they do all the other kinds of things. They have centrifuge, they separate things, they take all the blood pressure readings and all those kind of things. So they really learn by doing that. And then another part of our classes generally include an externship where, because we have relationships with the local businesses here, we can say your first 750 hours of dental assisting is going to be here at the school. You'll be working with chair-side things, and you'll learn how to make molds and all that kind of thing. You'll learn radiology, so you can do x-rays. But the last 150 hours of that class, we actually want you out in somebody's office to do that. So it gets a little tougher to do things on the weekends like that when we're relying on lab time, and we're also relying on the businesses of the community to help support us in that.
We just have a few minutes left, Bob. People always talk about class size. You know, I haven't been in a classroom for 25 years, and I'm going to go back, and there's going to be 85 people in this classroom.
Not at our classes, and it's one of the very nice things about it. We feel a class is really big if we have 20 to 25 people in it. And so our instructor to student ratio there is usually pretty good. A lot of our classes, you know, we try, because of the nature of our schools, we have to budget very closely. So we can't run classes sometimes if we only have 5 people, but we're budgeted to have 15 in order to make the class run. But we also don't want to squeeze in 35 or 40 people in a classroom environment when that's not good for students. So I would say most of our classes probably run with anywhere from maybe 12 to 20 people. In fact, we have limitations on our classes for a lot of places where we won't accept more than 20 people or so, 22 maybe on some. Yeah, so we hope that people are comfortable when they come in. They're not going to feel overwhelmed. They're not going to feel lost in a crowd. So.
Well, Bob, we enjoyed you coming in today. We're talking with Bob Thomas, the Financial Aid Administrator for Eastland-Fairfield Career Center, and I appreciate you stopping by. One more time, phone number, website?
The website is just www.eastlandfairfield.com. Any of the other contact information they need to be available there. We do have an 800 number there. My local number over in my office is up in Groveport. It's 614-836-4541. They could always call down here at, in fact, now that I think about it, last year we went to a digital phone system. If you call that number, you can get through to the Fairfield Career Center also here, because we're all part of the same general system there. But I encourage people, hopefully they will take a look at our website and find out what they need to know there about our schools.
Financial night, do you ever have one of those? Like you just open it up to people who have questions about finances?
We actually participate with the high schools. They have open houses a couple of nights during the year, so anybody can come in and talk with me about financial aid at that point. But as I say, I'm more than happy to talk with anybody about federal financial aid, whether they're considering coming to our school or they just have questions about how it works. It's a daunting thing for people who haven't been through it, and because I've been doing it for years, I'm more than than happy to say, let me save you some aggravation. It isn't that hard, but just come in and let me guide you through that. So.
Fantastic. Well, again, Bob, we appreciate you coming in. Weekend plans? Going golfing this weekend? What are we doing?
No, actually, I have one of those Saturdays where I realize that we're overextended. I have too many different things going on, and what I'd really love to do is just get my grass mowed, because it's hard to keep up with it this summer. But no, I'm going to be running around, but the weather's going to be so great. We have something to do downtown in the morning on Saturday, and in Reynoldsburg in the early afternoon, here in Lancaster again late in the afternoon, and in Hilliard in the evening. So I'm going to be on Sunday. It'll be go to church and go home and relax.
That's fantastic.
All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, and remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.